Live. Hello, Linda. Hi, Philip.
Hello.
Hello.
So good to have you on here.
Thank you.
So I'm just,
Excited to be here.
yeah, just starting up the live stream. So we're now streaming live as well. So we'll allow people to join in the session here as we just have a chat for a few minutes. We'll get started right at the top of the hour in 5 minutes from now.
Super.
Yeah. So Linda, I know Philip is in Germany. So where are you located?
Austin, Texas.
Austin. Oh, the place where the new technology hub for
It
for
really
all
is.
companies.
And
Yeah.
the music, we just wrapped up ACL. So
Oh,
two
cool.
weekends in a row. So you can imagine how crazy busy the city was.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I have family in Austin, so I go down there
Oh.
quite a bit. Yeah. So we do the Cap 10 race every year.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
one
I do that quite a
that's never been canceled ever in history, except for the past 3 years or something like that.
I know. Crazy. Yeah, that's a great run.
Yeah. So it's always fun. But yeah, I love going down to Texas. It's a good time.
It's growing. I mean, like crazy. It's just
Well, yeah, I know that, and making room for all the new technology people moving in there. My family is thinking about moving out and moving down the lower end of Texas towards the towards the water or something like that. So
Galveston or
yeah,
Corpus, either
something
way.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
just there's a I know Elon Musk just said he was going to move Tesla there. He's already done that with SpaceX, right?
Yep.
So, and he plans on building the new Tesla truck there. So I guess that's going to bring a lot of business.
A lot of business, a lot of jobs, which is wonderful.
Right.
More jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing just the tech and the celebrities and everybody coming to Texas. Austin.
That's
Great
right.
great music scene.
Great music.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was so great too, because even like Duran Duran, even, I think they closed on Sunday, but they went into the general pubs and played as well, which is just fascinating. Get up
Fun.
close and personal.
Yeah.
Of course, when you have a team and mostly everybody will stay at ACL, you know that your team's not going to work on Friday and neither are they going to work on Monday because they're nursing, the hangover, I'm sure.
That's the downsides of Austin, Texas, right?
Yeah. Well, we only have to put up with it in September, and then March we have South by Southwest. So two huge, massive music and tech fests, it's all right. I usually leave town though for March.
And my favorite club, Anton's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we have that huge homeless problem, and they've been doing, over the last 6 or 7 months, trying to clean that up because the entire, if you've been down there, Lady Bird Lake, was completely covered. The streets were covered, and it's not 100% like it used to be, but it's a lot better. So it was in time for the festival was good.
Right. The amount of homelessness that's coming out of the pandemic has been tough across the nation. I know that locally here in Colorado, they've created a lot of programs to help people get off the streets. Just recently, I've heard of this. There's a program in Texas I heard of where they're taking in people like boys that are kind of lost boys that are on the street, and I was actually in a town down there not a couple of weeks ago, and they were handing out flyers to people. Hey, if you know anybody needs help, send them over to our place. And I was like, oh, how many people do you have already? Well, they're sleeping all over the floor. We got tons of people, but we're taking care of them, and they're getting the right psychological support and stuff like that. And
there's a lot of support here, and they just bought a hotel in the Arboretum, and then they created another community that's kind of outside of Austin with tiny homes and just trying to get people the help they need, but also getting them stable with jobs, financial security, more education. So, for the people that truly don't want to be homeless and just are in that circumstances, it's a good thing. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get more organized. I know that the there's a lot of the support that's going out to the community, but that's part of our discussion today is creating career opportunities and job paths for people. And so this definitely can help the overall situation at work. And so we're going to get started in just about 1 minute. We'll get things kicked off, but yeah, so I'm excited about today's conversation, and especially, Linda, about your system and how well it helps with putting career architecture together. Because, of course, I've done career architecture, throughout my career. Started at Barclays. That was my first job doing career architecture many years ago, and it took a little over a year to do that process at that time. I mean, of course, it was all manual, and so forth. And so I'm excited to see how your system can ease that process, because there was some pain involved during that time. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I've done it too. So
yeah,
hence a technology company that helps
right.
in that area in particular.
All right, so let's go ahead and get kicked off. We're at the top of the hour here, and we have some listeners joining here on the Zoom platform. And so I'm going to go ahead and kick off our event. So welcome everyone to the Rewards Mastermind. Here we're a mastermind of professionals that are trying to elevate the industry, trying to come up with creative ideas to solve some solutions in the reward space, whether you're a comp practitioner or talent management and so forth. That's our big drive here. I am our host today is myself, Sam Reeve. I come from a big comp background. I've worked at some large companies in the past, but now I'm focused on small to mid-sized firms, trying to give them the appropriate infrastructure so they can grow and scale. And of course, I have Howard Neiswitz, a longtime colleague and professional of coming from a deep background and also at Barclays for quite a period of time, and a long distinguished career, Howard. So fortunate to have him here with us today. Like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about providing careers for your employees, and a little bit about this particular platform. I mean, currently we're broadcasting off of Zoom, and so if you're attending here live with us on Zoom and you're part of this platform, you can feel free to leave questions in the chat box there. And feel free to do that as we go along. We'll try to capture those as we go through the discussion today. If you happen to be on another platform, because we're multicasting across a variety of different platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. So if you happen to be on one of those platforms, feel free to leave your questions there as well. And we might not be able to get to those live here on the discussion, but we can come back and circle back to those questions, and I can get you connected with Philip or Linda or whoever that can best answer that for you. So do participate as we go along. So to invite you, or to let you know about our guest experts here, we have Philip from Gradar. He's a long-term colleague as well. Gradar, if you haven't heard of that system before, is a well-established point factor job evaluation platform that's become critical in today's world. As you know, that right now across the globe, pay fairness is a huge, very important to ensure that happens. And the old methodologies of paired comparison and classification methods, especially that are very popular in the U.S., just are not don't have enough rigor enough to be able to classify jobs fairly. And so Philip has brought us a great tool to allow that to happen, and which is the foundation of career architecture. And so we'll hear a little bit more about that. And then also I would like to introduce you to Linda of TalentGuard. So she has a system of career architecture, and both those systems, Gradar and TalentGuard, work together to make this a very seamless and painless experience. And so we're going to learn in detail about how that happens today. So I'm very excited about this discussion. So let's kick things off. And Philip and Linda, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about how you decided to come together and partner on this particular initiative. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you came about with developing the solution of your company. So maybe Philip, you could start.
Yeah. Okay, I would like to. Yeah. Well, it's the story of how Gradar came to be starts a while back, almost 10 years. And I'm not going to bore you with the details, but the core idea was to create an open job grading system that anyone can use. So there's no hidden knowledge, there's no consulting needed to use the system, which means that we have many users that have never seen a consultant in their entire life because they know how to do job grading, and they just get the software. And at the same time, we have many users who maybe lack the experience, lack the time, the capacity to do it themselves, who would work with one of our implementation partners. So the idea of Gradar is to build a job grading system that not only calculates the grade, but does some other nice things too, and that is available to anyone, be it implementation partners or organizations. And right now, and we started in 2016, and even though it's a very small niche market, we have won more than 300 users across the world. And it's from very small companies to larger NGOs or to very large companies with more than 300,000 employees. The system has them all.
Yeah, and that's one thing I love about Gradar, Philip, is that it comes with a network of professionals that are across the globe. And so, as we all know, careers and job advancement and compensation, HR in general is different across the different locations, right? And so it's having the confidence that there's an expert that's available that knows Gradar and knows the local market is quite powerful.
Absolutely.
So Linda, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come up with, and tell us about your journey and how you came up with TalentGuard?
Awesome. Thank you. I started I was a serial entrepreneur and worked in many different startups in different sectors, but I had an opportunity to become a service provider and provide consulting to organizations on how best to handle career transition of their employees and helping employees themselves go through career transition. And as I was building out this practice, what I was finding, I found it very difficult to build out these career architectures and these career paths that organizations wanted, because I would be thinking to myself, employees don't even know how to describe the skills that they have. They're not taught in the university how to move from one career path to the next. Most of the time, it's just happens by happenstance. So I became really passionate after the first 3 or 4 or 5 projects where I was building these models over and over again, and they seemed very similar. I said, there's got to be a better way. There has to be some type of technology that would automate this career architecture and then build out these career paths automatically. But after much research, I couldn't find a solution that did that. So given my technology background, I created TalentGuard to do that. And TalentGuard today is a platform that not only handles the most complicated side of career architecture, which is, most of the time organizations don't have anything at all and they're building it from scratch. And like you said at Barkley, it's taking years just to get your first version, and then you're constantly keeping it up to date. That would slow down our implementation. So I thought there has to be a better way. And, when I first built up the technology stack, it had the employee side, but then we went back and said, all right, we've got to build out the side for the OD people. Once the comp team creates like what Gradar puts out there, the architecture and the grading systems and the titling schema, the next thing that organizations want is, well, how do I build up my skills architecture and my experience and my qualification architecture so that we can now build out these career paths to help employees grow their careers and upskill and do it in a very organized way, but do it very fast. Instead of a year, how can we do it in a matter of weeks, right? Wow. And enable the consultants to continue to do their work, because the work that's being done is extremely valuable, but nobody wants a PowerPoint or an Excel spreadsheet at the end of the day to then go build out these SharePoint like career paths that are not dynamic in nature.
That is so exciting, because I know in the past in building these myself is that thinking about the traditional career ladder just going up is quite simple. We have our minds around that, how, building, elevating those skills, but we're trying to take a matrix approach, moving across the function and providing more opportunities for our people. That's where it becomes complex, right? Because these specifications for different jobs, they change, the different types of training, the evolution of those positions. It's a real-time issue that needs to be to addressed, and your system tracks that, right?
Oh, 100%. So we have a dynamic system. And what I mean by that is when we consume the data from Gradar or the company themselves, right? We have some base level of knowledge about the grades, the job title. So when we consume it, and I'll show you a little bit, say a job title, because we're hydrating our data lake on a monthly basis globally with many external data sources, we know what the trending skills are and the experiences and the qualifications that are needed across employers of different regions, different sectors, and we're appending the latest data. But not only doing it the first time, we're notifying the administrators of the system when skills are changing. So what skills are trending for the future? What skills should be sunsetted? So keeping that job architecture and those job descriptions up to date on an annual basis is happening real time. And when they want to approve it, not only that, we're bringing in those subject matter experts internal to those organizations so that they can truly see what's trending. And why that matters is because if you're developing your employees on a certain skill level, but they're comparing themselves externally, you want to see, what is needed, because skills are transferable. Doesn't matter the technical skills, the leadership skills. So you want to make sure that you are hiring the right talent at the right level, with the right skills, but that when you have them internally, you're going to continue to level them up, because if you don't level them up, they will go somewhere else.
Right. And so I just want to, for our listeners out there, I just want to make sure that you're aware, as we're going to go through this discussion today, we're going to save plenty of time today to go look at Linda's system specifically, look at TalentGuard and what it can do towards the end of this discussion. So stay tuned. But right now, what I'd like to talk about a little bit from you, Howard, is as we're, what are the pain points that you're seeing in the marketplace, Howard, as far as companies and providing career opportunities? Because right now there's a lot of pressure from the market as far as, we've heard about the great resignation, people are leaving and so forth. And a part of that I hear is because is the way that they were treated and as an employee during the pandemic, and maybe some of the demands that are being asked upon them now coming back into the office when they really like being remote, and other aspects of just having a different mindset change in where they're going in their career, or where they want to go in their career. So what have you been seeing, Howard?
I think that's the biggest issue right now for companies is to be able to adapt. You can't go back to what was, and companies that are stuck into, oh, well, we're just going to bring all the employees back in and things go back to the way they were. That's not going to work anymore. All the employee population has more opportunity in this market today. They're looking for a lot more flexibility. They're looking for career development opportunities. So if you're going back to, well, we've always done it this way, that's not going to take you forward. So I think those are the challenges. It's a mindset. And, companies need to think about their culture, and companies are worried about, well, how do we maintain our culture if we have half our workforce or more on a remote basis? So it really requires some new thinking.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Now, one of the reasons why some people felt like they weren't treated fairly during the pandemic and so forth, they became aware that communication was often struggled between manager and the employee in the remote environment, as managers struggle to bring up that skill set. But something that has been brought into the fold that's been talked about for the past 5 years that is becoming more and more acute is pay fairness. And I know, Philip, your tool, Gradar, helps provide a infrastructure for pay fairness that is the foundation for future job evaluation. So can you tell us a little bit about what that process looks like and how your tool delivers that?
Well, pair fairness goes hand in hand with paying equally for equal work. So that's actually something that is core to any kind of pay equity claim. Whenever you want to compare yourself or an employee against a group of employees, is the work of equal nature. And there's been a lot of discussion about this, and it's pretty clear when we look at what laws say and what what practice says, that job grading, point factor based job grading, is the gold standard to assess the equality of work. And once you do that, and I'm just going to quickly show you something, and this is our grade map. So when grader is used to evaluate a job, to grade a job, the outcome is going to be 1 to 25 grades. So if we have a grade 6 job and another one next to it, in that case, they are of equal value to the organization. So this is something that could be used in a pay equity claim or for any kind of pay equity analysis. And it's going to be pretty accurate and as objective as possible. Mm-hmm. Much more objective than using a job classification approach, like the P1, P2, P3 levels from all those surveys out there. Mm-hmm. It doesn't answer the question about price. That's a different discussion, because price depends on supply and demand. So there's a high demand for data scientists and a low supply, so the prices are going to go up. That's a different question. Mm-hmm. So you would factor in not only the grade, but maybe a job family too. And as soon as you have information such as the job title, the grade, the job family, this is something that you can use. And this is something that you can use inside of Grader to have a look. And this is an actual demo here. To have a look at a cross comparison. I'm going to use the organization units here to compare which jobs are on the same level. Mm-hmm. So this is what you would do. And then when we jump into one of those jobs here, I'm not going to use this one. We would have the information on how this job was evaluated. So what kind of knowledge is needed, what kind of experience and problem solving level is needed, and all of these things. But also we would align this job with something that we call a global job family. Mm-hmm. This is something that is pre-built into the system. It comes by default. And it's always combining a summary together with some typical activities and maybe some synonyms. And what we do is, so when we use our wonderful cross comparison, we have evaluated all of the jobs in an organization. We can export these results into a very simple CSV file. And we all love these comma separated values. And we can then take this file and send it over to TalentGuard, where it is being imported and where our job architecture is being transferred into a talent architecture. Mm-hmm. So basically, the system over at TalentGuard enriches a job profile that we have here with skills and competencies and creates links between the job profiles. So not only going up on a ladder, but going to the left, to the right. So it's really going to broaden the horizon of an entire organization when it's being analyzed by the TalentGuard system.
That's great. So there's a lot here for people to absorb. I mean, as far as the one thing that's important to know as far as the Gradar system, I mean, Philip was talking about 20 or some odd levels or grades. And it's important to know that you can customize this to your organization, whether you have 3, 5, 9, or whatever. So it can be graphed into your reality as a company. And one of the important pieces that Philip was also showing there, that cross comparison, is the overall job structure that classifies your jobs by function and sub-function and level, so that you can ensure that you have a consistent approach across your company in the globe. Now, one of the common things that I've experienced as a compensation professional, especially when dealing in international environments, is that there's different lexicon. When you bring on a new company in Africa, or you merge with a competitor or a partner in Europe, and you're bringing your companies together. The way that they define certain levels may be different. And so having a tool that gives you a common language will help you bring in those new partners into your fold in a very painless way, in a way that's very fair and equitable. As we can see, the Gradar method, that point factor method, removes much of that bias that is inherent in many of the U.S. systems, such as classification method or paired comparison. So it's and from what I understand, Philip, there's a regulation. I mean, we've already been exposed to, as American companies, we've already been exposed to GDPR for data privacy and so forth, which I know that your company is compliant with. But there's also coming down the road a demand for more rigor in European companies to use the point factor methodology. Is that true?
Absolutely. So the thing about Europe is there are many initiatives run by the European Commission, so which is a transnational body that issues regulations or something that's called a directive. So the directive being something more direct, which needs to be applied right away, or a regulation that needs to be adapted into local law. And 7-8 years ago, there was a regulation about pay transparency, which had to be converted into local laws. And right now, every country in Europe asks employers of more than 250 employees to report on their gender pay gap. But this set of rules didn't say anything about how to do it. And what the European Commission is proposing now is to go a step further. And it's basically demanding every organization with more than 250 employees to not only report on the gender pay gap, but to do something about it too. And there are new discussions and new regulations about how you can do it. And it's basically saying you need point factor-based job evaluation to build your own in-house structure and your own rules and pay bands and structures that can be used and applied to guarantee equal pay for equal work. So this is super exciting, and I mean, it's not going to be bad for our business, I guess. So I'm excited.
That sounds great. So for those professionals out there that are trying to stay ahead of the curve, especially in those of you that have global companies, this is something that you should start thinking about. How can we introduce more rigor in our job evaluation process to ensure that we are having pay practices that are fair and consistent across the globe? So let's come back and so tell us. So Philip, we were moving into this before, and how basically Gradar and TalentGuard came together to look at providing a cohesive solution. And what was the main drive here? I mean, so Linda, as you reached out to Philip and you were thinking about a piece of where Gradar can provide in the product set for your customers and so forth, what was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, so it happened. It was kind of just a beautiful intro. Philip was working with a potential prospect, and he's potentially providing that piece of it, which is the job architecture and the grading. But he saw that the requirements needed a full talent management system around career pathing and succession planning and cert management. So he just reached out and said, "Hey, I think I've got part of this. I think you have the other part. Let's get online and see where we align and what data we can import and share back and forth." And it was just literally a beautiful connection. And we thought, well, this is much bigger than this one area, because we don't build job architecture. We consume it, and then we build onto it, the talent architecture, if you will. So that's really where it started. We are in an engagement right now where we saw the full need together, and we thought this would be a great area to play. And now we're taking it broader. We're going to have go-to-market strategies, because when I think of organizations, I think of them in terms of their maturity. If they have no job architecture at all, they're a maturity 1, and they have to build it. Sometimes the HR team starts it. And then your dream is to have a maturity level 4, where it's after Gradar comes in and the work's already done, or the consultants have done the work, and then they give us a file and we consume it and then we can append it, right? That's our dream. So if we can work to find more people that are ready because they've worked with Gradar and they've done that initial work, it makes our lives easier, and it makes our deployments, like I said, so fast, because most of the work is done. Then we do the work that we do really well, which is the talent architecture to the employee experience, and both systems together, because not only our systems, because then we have to feed data back into Workday or to SuccessFactors or to Oracle. So, having that structure that we can all play with in a nice way, and having, we end up being the system of record typically for the job role data once it gets in there, because we're passing data from the ATS into the HRIS into the LMS, and so it works really well.
Okay, so we've talked a lot so far in this discussion about why and how this came together and the process and so forth. But let's back up a little bit and let's talk about the real benefits that career architecture brings, job architecture brings to an organization at a high level. So, Linda, what do you bring to your customers? What can they expect once career architecture is implemented into their companies?
I think the most important thing when you think about outcomes is that they are able to help their employees realize their career journey. They're able to see their skills. It's transparent. They are able to see the aspirations, like, where do I want to go next, and in 3 years and in 5 years? And we can, in a very easy, transparent way, show them what their gaps are, show them how to fill their gaps, and then when that vacancy becomes available, let them apply for that job, so that we are keeping the talent that we've spent a lot of time recruiting for, hiring for, onboarding, developing in their role. Now let's develop them for the future role, right? As Howard said, the world of work is changing, and we have to be better at engaging our employees for the things that they want, to help eliminate stress, to drive well-being, to help them realize their dreams, because it's an employees market, right? They have choices where they want to spend their time, and they want to do it with an organization that is valuing them. But I think the ultimate output also for the administrative team or the HR team or the executive team is truly knowing where their gaps are, what's driving those gaps, how we can look at it on a global level to begin filling those gaps, but also where the bottlenecks are in the organization from a DE&I perspective. Where in the organization are we having people that are stopping and not moving to the next level? Is it age? Is it gender? Is it ethnicity? At what grade levels, right? And then we can zoom into that, because we show those analytics, and say, here's an area where there is a problem. How are you going to get rid of the problem, right? We can bring attention to it and a spotlight on it, so that the right people at the table can begin to ask the questions, how do we remove this bottleneck? How can we now enable all people in a fair way to have the same opportunity to rise up in ranks or to move over into different areas of the organization that interest them?
I would think it also gives management a very quick, easy tool to determine if they have talent within the house to move into new roles or open positions.
100%. Yeah.
For TalentGuard, it's about equal opportunities. For us, naturally, it's about equal pay.
That's
right.
And this is very much complementary what we do here.
Yeah. So this is a really important thing for you comp professionals out there, because comp professionals, we often get beat up because we're in the dark corners working on our spreadsheets, right? And the only output that people see, or the business sees from us, is these pay ranges, and they don't understand the rigor that goes beyond this. I mean, inside these pay ranges, when we talk about the structure, we do levels. We are basically providing the infrastructure for career architecture, and so for us to be more strategic. And our role as a comp professional is to start thinking with our talent cap on, the users of our products that we can bring more value to the organization. And so that is what this is all about. And that's why we have Philip that is that is on the compensation side, building the job architecture, the job structure and those pieces. And we have Linda on the other side, really making that happen. And so you out there as comp professionals and those HR practitioners, this is where those two areas come together. And just as this partnership is coming together here, it can happen in your organization as well. So Linda, what are the first things that some of those professionals out there that are listening in need to think about when starting the journey towards career architecture?
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, having a structure is extremely important. And the reason why structure is important, and when you're thinking about those grade levels, it informs our system what would be considered an upward move, a lateral move, right? We also have a mass exodus of baby boomers leaving the workforce. So a decelerated move is also important. And people forget about that in a lot of instances. Sometimes you got to move down to move over to move up as well. So having that architecture is one factor that informs our system of a direction. The other part then is, how extensive do you want your matching to be, from a role to a person's profile? That's what the magic in the middle, because even though we've been talking a lot about skills and competencies, we can also consume, as Gradar showed you, information about experiences, informations about qualifications, degrees, certifications, and then preferences. Your interest in working remote or your interest in traveling, right? All of those are important factors that help me as an individual understand, am I going to be a right fit for this job right now at my stage in life? Or am I thinking about other things that matter? Maybe I have long-term care with parents and, for whatever reason, or I want to become a mother. People's careers ebb and flow. It changes. It's dynamic as the job role itself. And we have to constantly being able to fine tune that data. So thinking about that is an important factor. And then as they're building out career structure or talent architecture, the other thing to think about in an organization is, who do I want to have eyes on these roles once it's built? Who would we like to invite? So if I'm doing an engineering department, would I like to have a subject matter expert in engineering, the VP of engineering, to take a look at the data before it goes live? Because they also have a way to manipulate what they think is trending if we've missed something. And everybody that touches the system is learning, right? It's machine learning and AI in the background. We're informing it. And so it gets better with time as we continue to think about that. But career paths are dynamic in themselves as well. What the career architecture can do is, if somebody gets placed from one role to another, are we skipping grades? Well, if we're skipping grades, that means we're skipping comp bands. Are we moving somebody in a grade and keeping them in a other pay grade? That's not fair, and you can get in trouble for that. So we are identifying the things that are going on in the system once it's live, to then inform the executive team about things that they need to do. Or maybe we need more grade levels. In a lot of countries, sometimes, especially in technical, we need half grades because we need to move them along. Even though we don't want to change their pay band, they have to move up in grade to show certain movement because that is the culture. So that informs companies like Gradar. Hey, maybe we need to look at this. Maybe we need to evolve this as well. Let's reconsume it in TalentGuard and keep going. It's not a one and done. So having a system that is dynamic, that's easy to use, that's informing you about the changes that are coming from the market data in, like MZ and Burning Glass and SSG and ONET, right? They're giving us that data of what's trending, what's important now, and what's important in the future.
Great. Yeah, that's very helpful. I mean, that was one of the questions that we had in the Q&A here, as far as, where does the information come from? And so basically you're saying that you're getting, of course, the information from the Gradar system, from the job structure. You're getting information from the company's managers that they're piping in on we need these requirements, and you're getting information from multiple sources, external sources that on career pathing.
Yep, and we have our own internal talent architecture as well that covers 19 different industries, and it has all of the skills and all of the learning and interview questions. We have that built out over 30 years, and we acquired that asset a couple of years ago. So wow. We have that in-house that we are building upon.
And so this is in global information and information across the different
Correct.
regions.
Yep,
Wow.
52 languages. Yeah.
Well, very impressive. That's great. All right. Well, I'm super excited. I want to see the tool. So let's go ahead and launch this and
All right.
start going through it.
Let's see, I got to put my glasses on now. I'm looking up close. Let me just give me a minute here to get logged in.
Sure.
I'll have to see my login screen. Awesome. All righty.
Yeah. So I was telling Howard at the beginning of our conversation when we were doing career architecture and with one of my colleagues, Donnell Green was my partner in crime on this. And it just took so long to do the process at Barclays. I mean, in such a long time, and just collaboration across the management and so forth. And so I know I'm just seeing how this can be done a decade later, how it can be done much faster.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. So I'm logged into an administrative database. And when I say administrators, this would typically be the HR, OD, L&D team that would be in this particular area of the software. So the first thing that so what happens first is we in every instance, we populate your library, depending on the vertical. If you're banking or telecom or utilities or whatever, we populate the system with the data that's relevant. And then it keeps getting updated on a monthly basis. But what happens is, say that Philip just sent us that CSV file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to import that file into my system. Now, in TalentGuard, we can consume and digest the job role ID that Gradar generates, the titles, the grade, the description, and if it has any associated skills, either from Gradar or the company, we can consume those. So I'm going to import the file. And it imported the file, and it's going to allow me to see 3 roles that I imported. I'm just going to select the brand manager. Now what it's doing is it's taking the role that Philip gave me, and it is finding a match from our data lake that's going to be close to a brand manager or exec. So it's AI in the background, and we can find a data based on a job title, based on the description, or based on a lumping of skills. So it takes a minute for it to do it the first time. And then it's going to populate over here to the right. And what it's doing is saying, if it finds a role, it's going to append it with also the description and the skills and experiences and the qualifications that are trending for that role. Typically, as you'll see here, so if this is all of Gradar's, we can say, don't use TalentGuard's job description. We want to use what Gradar produced. And now I brought skills in, you don't need them. But if it finds a match, it's going to show with a high probability in green and a medium probability in yellow of the skills that we found through the import. But what it's also going to do is show me up to 35 skills that are of high, medium, and low importance to the role. And if I like this job, I simply align it, but I can also look at other jobs that might be similar. And when you hit this align button, it's training the system that we're getting it right each time. Why that it's important is, let's say that I imported all of, say, 20 or 30 job roles that are in the global job family for branding. I can, once I've trained the system in a step of a button, do auto match at 70%. You can see this one's at 100. So you can do entire job families, aligning them with a single click of a button. Then you're able to go in and manage the role. And I won't spend a lot of time here, but you're still able to edit on top of what you did with Gradar. So if I want to go look for that role, here.
Yeah, and then I'm sure that we're seeing some of the latency because of we're on Zoom at the same time.
Yeah,
so,
it's some of that too, but it's also my demo site. I need to pump it up. I have 10,000 job roles in here. So normally that's not normal. So here's the brand manager if it was aligned, and then you have all the data assets and the artifacts that go along with it. So the data properties, and then all of the data that we consume from Gradar, like the job family, the grade, your business areas, your departments, your location, the HRIS role ID, and this is also important, as I said, with the Workday, when we're sending data back and forth, I can assign this role out to a subject matter expert for review and approval, but I can look at the responsibilities of the job and the skills, which are most important. So I can add more, I can edit those, but it's automatically going to show me the skills that I can begin looking at, right? So here are skills, a skill name, a skill description, a category of skill, its importance to the role, the target level set. So we often talk in terms of proficiency levels. We have 4 out of the box: basic, intermediate, advanced, and world class. And each of those proficiency levels, if you will, have assessment statements that one can assess against to determine, you know, am I effective or am I at a top tier? But we automatically recommend what's trending in the market. Then you might have different, like you were saying, what if I have brand management for the US and brand management for the UK? You can have multiple roles, and then we can select indicators that are most appropriate for those areas. Again, you can continue to build out the rest of the role. You can look at it. But what's more important is when we usually start with the lowest role in the grade and the highest role in the grade, and then we start editing in between. So let's say that we're going to look at the global family of branding. And I'm just going to say, show me all the roles that are in the brand family from the lowest to the highest, right? This is where grades are important as well. You can see the skills of the cluster, right? Not just each job role, but now I'm showing you cluster level skills for brand management. I can show you the category. Now, from the lowest level role, right, you might say advertising is needed for the brand manager at, you know, a lower level than what is needed for the director of brand strategy, right? So now I'm calibrating roles against the skill hierarchy and the skill matrix to make sure that we're setting the right targets that go along with the pay bands. And then people, right? So obviously if a skill is needed here, but not here, that's a gap as we unfold this. So we're able to do that. And then we automatically, I won't go through the rest of the tools because I think it's more important on the employee side, but we take that data and in one click of a button, we're building these maps. And by maps, I say career maps that are automatically built, and it builds it laterally. And this was based on rules and algorithms that we set. So we can see from an administrative perspective, what's most common based on the skills and the hierarchy and the grades, and do we want to support that? If not, we begin to change it. But this map, as employees are making career progressions internally and they're giving user generated feedback, these maps get generated automatically. So that's the administrative side. Now, why that's important, right, is we do that so fast. It's happening in real time. Like we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of jobs in a given week, right? So you know what you can see. Now, why that matters is I'm not going to show you the full onboarding experience for an employee. I'll show you not the first time user, but now I'm going to just go in as an employee. And why that matters is now let's say that that role is done. The subject matter experts approved it. We've assigned the role to a user. Now, as the brand manager, so Flo's a brand manager, it automatically assigned 10 skills to her job role. And now she can see from a market perspective where she's at target on skills, above target and below target. And what we provide below are all the skills that we've assigned to the role where she can self-assess, where she can invite her manager to assess. And we begin to see where the manager and the employee have disagreed on where someone is at in their role, where they have agreed, where I have outstanding feedback. It's not a one and done assessment. It's a continuous assessment that the employee and the manager are engaging with all year long. And as roles are changing, as this employee is changing roles, she can do that. But not only that, right? We know that employees are more than the sum of themselves in a role. So they can search the entire database on skills, and they can search by skill clusters, skill groups, and just begin searching for any skill by keyword. Right.
So the employee here is, as far as you mentioned, they have a disagreement between the manager and the employee as well. Can they provide additional feedback from their customers, from their peers?
They can have the employee and the manager and a third party subject matter expert can have a dialogue. We track all history of the dialogue that has happened between the manager and the employee, or the manager and the third party assessor. So that the employee and the manager know why that rating is the way it is. But it's a let's talk and agree, right? This is promoting dialogue between the people involved in assessing this skill on an ongoing basis. So after every project, after every gig, right, the definition of this skill might be a little bit different, because we're not just jobs. We can deliver up just skills with no jobs, but we love job architecture. So we love to serve it up in the job, but then you can assess on everything else. And why that matters is because I have a full perspective of this employee and their skills, right? We're very skill centric. So you have skills that you have in your job. You have skills that you've gained over your career. You have skills that are aspirational, those things that you want the opportunity to develop, but you have not yet done that, right? That matters as well. What do I wish to develop? So you can see she has 116 skills, because when you begin building out a career path that enables these employees, I can simply leverage, there's that back end that I showed you, in an employee dynamic way. So do I want to move on to be a brand manager senior? I'm a 68% match. Let me learn more about that. Let me look at the description and the responsibilities and the day in the life of. These are videos, interview questions, coaching tips. But what I really care about is a gap report. What skills am I missing? Or what skills do I have, but I'm not at the right level? This is going to enable me to focus on the things that I need to develop to be 100% match, right? And then we serve up those development options, i.e. learning references, coaching tips, mentors, and put them in my development plan so that I can begin working real time, right? So that's one way to build it, but we know that life is, not like that. So we have a ways-like experience where you can say, all right, if I want to become anything in the company, a chief human, if I can say it right,
Or a chef.
resource, and I want this to be the role, it's going to show me the shortest path to get there. But like Waze, I want to go with the most highways, the most rest stops, there's not one way to an end destination, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to clutter your canvas. You want to keep it nice. You don't want it to become an airline map, because it's not usable. But you can simply go through here and see, what are the different ways and the different methods that you might break into this chief human resource officer, right? And then at the end of the day, what really matters, because we've talked about this, is your development plan. How am I going to develop myself to be a better employee, to make sure that I'm staying current, not only in my job role with the skills that are trending? How am I going to communicate the kind of effort that I've put into myself to upskill and to reskill and to tie myself to career paths? So when the organization is finding talent, looking for me, and I think Harwood said this earlier, we can go, do we have anybody in the organization that have these skills at these levels, these experiences, has an aspiration, has worked on closing their skill gaps? Show me everybody that's internal so I can see that marketplace of potential talent and know whether I can create a succession pool for that, or if I have to bring someone from the outside. But then track all of that from a dashboard, right? And this is the last little part, and we can leave it for Q&A, where in my dashboard, I can see skills that are trending. I can see gaps. I can begin to look at the DE&I perspectives across my age, my ethnicity, and my gender to start bringing insights into an organization that is going to help us facilitate a transparent and equitable, fair place to work. So I'll stop there.
This gives employees a lot of control over their career progression.
Oh, for sure. It's 100% employee initiated, right. Even as much as the talent assessment. If the employees don't want to submit it, that's okay. We'll take that employee's perspective, but we're always about moving from the subjective to the objective to the verified, right? And the fact that they can see how their skills compare in that job role to the external market gives them an indicator whether their organization is helping them stay at the highest skill level that they can be.
Have organizations also used this as a more objective way of doing performance evaluation?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask us that. We have a full performance management system, And I like to think of, and I have it written on the board as, why don't we start to think of rewards and pay a little bit differently for the talent assessment side? I'm like, maybe we make that your base pay, and maybe performance is about incentive pay, right? There's a lot of areas that we're exploring with some reward experts that are helping to tie the different talent experiences to different types of rewards and outcomes in the right manner. And we're kind of experimenting with that as you speak. So our talent assessment today does not produce a final score, even though our customers have asked us to do that. We really want to keep this career development oriented. And if you want to have a merit-based outcome, we leverage the performance tool in concert with the talent assessment to drive that.
Great.
Yeah, this is so powerful. And yeah, so I imagine there's many questions out there. If anybody's on the listening in on Zoom or so forth, if you want to ask some questions, I mean, love to take those now in our last 10 minutes here. But one question I have is that as I know, some people are looking at this and saying, well, you know, is this really going to fit me as a small company or a medium-sized company? Do you need to be a large company to have that? What would you say to that, Linda?
I would agree, similar to what Gradar said. We have some small companies, we have mid-size, and we have very large, you know, global enterprises. But when you're thinking about, you know, career pathing, usually where I've seen it most effective is at least 500 employees or more, because even though people have career paths, you also have to have enough room to enable that talent mobility internally. So the larger organizations tend to have more vacancies, more projects, more gigs that enable people to move.
Right. And one thing, that new trend that's coming on is in broadening, for a lot of small companies that they come to me and they say, well, we don't have that job level. We don't have need for that, you know, but you know, that, and I'm trying to broaden their minds out, and that some of their people in their ecosystem, you know, those people that they work closely with to provide them goods and services, or even their customers that they work with closely, that's part of their overall talent ecosystem. And sometimes what you can do is share talent with those people. I mean, if you lack that particular level, and you can put them over to a trusted partner in your talent ecosystem, and you can trade talent back and forth, you can provide more opportunities for your people in that trusted environment.
That marketplace.
That's right.
Exactly.
Let's see. So, and then I know we touched on a little bit of the progressions and understanding the different skill sets that are required for going up. And we talked about that. You know, you were able to get feedback from different people to support that element as well. So from peers but I know that a lot of this looks like it's very self-serve for employees, you know, but it also, managers can collaborate to help enhance the discussion.
Yep. So what happens is the employee decides when they're ready to submit to manager for verification and discussion. And so the manager can see how the employee thinks about themselves, and then the manager gives their input, or a third party. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes managers are giving input on the soft skills, the managerial skills, and the leadership, but sometimes in very technical roles, they're not in a position to be able to assess whether someone has C# at an expert level. So they might want to bring in a third party, usually in a center of excellence, to participate in that assessment. So that I use the word third party because it's not quite 360, inviting multiple people, but it is somebody beyond the manager. And so you have multiple forms of feedback that are coming in that now get exposed to the employee and the manager, the HR business partners, and then the entire organization. But at the same time, when the employee is generating their career paths, or they're liking roles, or they're expressing their interest in the marketplace or in the vacancies, the employee gets to decide what they want to make public or private. And then we have the talent planning page where the manager can see everything that the employee has made public. And, you know, we have the mentors. You can search for mentors, and you can be a mentor, and mentors can choose to be public or not, right? So there's a lot of, there's not a lot, but there's some configuration that each employee has control over, whether or not they choose to show it, whether or not they choose to share it, those sorts of things. But the more they share, and the more they enter, the more they show up in the, like we have ideal candidate criteria in the matching of, hey, I'm looking for 10 engineers that have these skill sets, that's willing to work in Abu Dhabi, that speaks Japanese, has a master's degree. Who are you? Who are they? Because those are the people that are getting on projects. Those are the people that are getting promoted because we're looking, actively looking. The recruiters love the tool, you can imagine.
Yeah,
and
that
the
was
hiring
my,
managers.
yeah, that was going to be my next question, is how the company can use this to identify talent pools. And so that's excellent. You can see those people that are developing and at what stage of development they are.
That's exactly right. And
readiness.
how long they've been developing and how long they've been in the pool. And if the distribution of the talent pool is diverse. So everything that we do, we are pushing transparency on diversity and equity and inclusion.
And also this for promotional fairness, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's great. Yeah. So it's so powerful. And now what other ways we talked about from the employee using the tool for career visibility, managers helping them with the coaching process and developing skills, recruiters using this from a perspective of identifying talent pools, succession and promotion. What other elements are that can be utilized in this approach?
Well, it's really, to me, it's really about three things: transformation, right? Digital transformation, helping an organization to transform its business. And, I was watching the news the other day, and I was watching the cargo because my house is being remodeled because of the flood we had in February, and I can't get all of the materials that we need, and it's sitting on a cargo somewhere. And the newscaster came on and he said, or the people who own the cargo area in Florida said, business isn't like it used to. We have to become the Amazon of cargo. We have to now think about operating 24/7, 7 days a week with people that need to do things differently. So a lot of companies in a lot of industries are having to think about how do they transform their business. And in order to transform your business, you need to understand the talent that you have now. You have to think about the talent you need in the future, and you need to be able to bridge the gap between those, right? So that's one area. The second area is capability development. Organizations are finding that they don't have the level of skills, the employees with the level of skills they need to support that transformation. So they have to identify gaps, and then we have to unlock human potential, right? So how are we going to enable employees to see transparently what the organization needs? What does the organization think is critical in terms of jobs and people and skills, and then enable employees to develop toward that, right? So those three areas I think are extremely important as organizations are thinking about the state of their future workforce. And it's got to be driven by data, and it's got to be driven by science, and it's got to be driven by proven methodologies, like Philip was saying earlier about what makes it good, what makes it great, and how do we know we are dealing with the right data, and then how can we build on top of that? That's
great. Well, we are coming up to the top of the hour, and I know we have some more questions out there, but what I'd ask is that we see if we can get these answered offline. But for now, Philip and Linda, how can people learn more about your different systems? How can they contact you and learn more about TalentGuard and Gradar?
You want to go, Philip?
Well, we have a very informative website, so there's a lot of information about Gradar on there, and anyone who's interested can sign up for a free trial, and that's I guess it's quite unusual in our business. So I'm just going to post the link into the comment section here, or you can Google it, gradar.com, and you will find it, and then you can sign up for a free trial.
Awesome. And ours too, talentguard.com. And then I think the best way to reach us is info@talentguard.com. So that way my inbox doesn't get inundated, but it is managed by a human being. So if you want to reach out to me, you can. Also on LinkedIn, please feel free to connect with me. If there was a question here, we'll go through and I'll work with Sam to figure out, because I did see some questions coming in. I'm happy to answer those, but also pose the question on LinkedIn, message me, send it to info, just let me know who you are. And I always respond. So great. And we also can set up a demo if you want to see a deeper dive of the technology.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for you both sharing your knowledge on this topic. I'm so excited about this product, and and like to see it more in action. And so it's great. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Please join us next month on the Rewards Mastermind. We'll have another great topic for you. And so thank you once again, Linda and Philip. You have a wonderful week.
Thanks, you too. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Yep.